Hello, my name is Injung Kim, and I'm a PhD student at the Computer Science Department at the University of Pittsburgh, and I'm working with Professor Adam Lee. So our paper title is about I Know What You Did last semester. So it is to understand the privacy expectation and preferences in a smart campus. So many universities in the United States that use tracking systems such with a lot of the different sensors to monitor students' academic performance, analyze their conduct, or assess their mental health. But a lot of people are saying that we are adults. Do we really need to be tracked? So while users can control their devices at their home or in a private spaces such as the smart home, they have limited control over the sensing in the public spaces, and they may not even be aware of their presences. So here we are focusing on the smart campus, and it is because it can host multiple sub-locations that can be utilized for several purposes. And also, hundreds of the occupancies have a limited or no control over the collected data. And it cannot apply their individual preferences due to it's a shared environment. So there is a lack of the transparency about the data processing in this kind of the environment. So here is our research question. So first research question is what factor such as sensor type and sensing context such as the detail indoor location or sensing purpose. And these are impact the user perception of comfort, surprise, allowance, and notification frequencies with the data collection in academic setting. Since limited prior work has examined the academic setting spaces, so we confirm whether these factors studied by the prior work in other domains are still relevant in academic spaces, as the relationship and power dynamic may differ. And second research question is, what factor matter to users when setting rules relate to data collection in academic setting? And what type of sensor controlling rules would users specify to control the sensing purpose, notification frequencies, data collection retention, and sharing the sense data among them? And understanding how user creating controlling rule help us identify user priorities relate to data collection and their desire for controlling in academic spaces. So what we did is we conducted the 14-day in situ ESM study to understand people's sentiment about the sensing capability in smart spaces. So we recruited 100 participants and we asked them to install our app and whenever they are move around on the campus. So after we ask about their location, we provide the academic sensing scenario based on the current indoor location and inquiry about their privacy related questions. So here is our study procedure. First, we conducted the demographic survey and installed the app and give them the instruction how to use the app. And also, second, so we did a daytime survey and also every day of the daytime survey. So every time we give them the sensing academic scenario related on the indoor location and also ask for privacy related questions. Then we ask the reason for daytime responses, detail, and also controlling preferences for sensor and indoor location. And it's a one-time, the evening survey every day. And daytime survey can be multiple times during the daytime. And for overall, we conducted 14 days. Then we ask the level of the privacy concerns through the 10 item, the IUIPC scale, so that we can compare with other literature. So here, try to see the first research question, which is what factors are impact to user perception for 4 different categories. So here is the daytime survey. So after we ask where you are, which university building you are, and which indoor type, location type that you are currently in. based on this location, so we provide the sensing academic scenario and ask for privacy-related questions. So to build a sensing academic scenario, so we have a contextual attribute used in academic sensing scenario. So among all possible combination of these attributes, our study focusing on the scenarios representative in common and emerging deployment of the sensing technology on campus. So we do have sensor purpose and the indoor type location and data storage time, and also they access by whom based on the academic setting. And after we providing this sensing scenario, so we ask 4 different privacy related questions. So first is about their comfort level and surprising level and allowance of this sensing scenario, and the notification frequencies, how often they would like to get notified about this sensing scenario. And after we have questions about multiple daytime surveys, and we also ask about in the daytime evening survey to ask more details about this. And also for the second research question, we also ask what type of the sensor controlling rules would users specify to control in sensing purpose, notification frequency, and data collection retention, and sharing the sense data about them. So for this, during the evening, not just asking detailed reason why you answer in during the daytime for a certain scenario, we also ask them sensor controlling rule questions. So by providing the indoor location and the sensing modality and what kind of control if you can specify and how would you like to specify. So we do have an interesting result. So first interesting result is where I am matters for my privacy. So we found out that the indoor location type impact the privacy perceptions. So we also run the generalized linear mixed model regression, and this output is about the comfort model. So negative estimate shows that the inclination toward the discomfort. So we can see that there is a significant factor about group area, learning area, private area. They feel discomfort about this scenario. And about the indoor location, and we also saw that almost half of the participants want to get every time notification, which is a different result than other literature. So try to see the why people in what factor are affect their the every time notification frequencies. So we also run the GLMM regression model to know which factor affected. And we also show that the indoor location type is the significant factor that people are want to get the notification every time. And research, second interesting result is I'm uncomfortable if faculty sees my data. So it is also because the majority, the participants was the student, even though we didn't specify who is going to be participant. And 80% of the demography was the student. So a lot of the people are saying, I'm uncomfortable if the faculty sees my data. So we can argue that the access by whom impact the privacy attitude in academic setting. So, and And next result is, and sensing purpose and modality have less influence in academic setting. So actually, a lot of the other literature says that sensing purpose or sensing modality, such as the camera, I do care, but I don't care about the Wi-Fi. But in the academic setting, we show that differences. And people says that it's just a typical practice in the university campus. I assume the lecture is being recorded or camera being used for security. So our analysis show that the sensing purpose and sensing modality show no significant in comfort level, allow deny decision, or the notification frequencies of the sensing data collection. And next result is I want to control my data collection in the study room. So we show that our regression showed that the participants would like to set up their rule for group area, and sensing modality doesn't show any significant impact. So they are actually desire to control rules when they are in the group area, such as the study room. So here is, let me talk about the discussion. So we can say that not all spaces are created equal. So leveraging asymmetric sensor deployment is possible. So we show that in academic setting, indoor location type is a significant factor, and also sensing purpose and sensing modality were not significant. By seeing that, we can also say designer need to be carefully consider these factors when deploying sensor. So we can even consider deploying high fidelity sensor like camera rather than low fidelity one like LiDAR in the common area, because in this kind of common area location, user express relatively lower concern. So that one we can say. Further, designer can consider deploying either high fidelity or the lower fidelity sensor in a hallway instead of classroom. And second discussion we can say is I want to be notified when certain cases. So this designing awareness mechanism for the academic spaces. So in here, awareness of the data collection is the center of the user privacy, because a lot of people, they just expose in this kind of smart environment without they already know what kind of sensor are there is. So by seeing that, so we can say designers should prioritize notification whenever data is accessed by faculty, and also need to include possible inferences that can be made from sensor data. And participants' desire for the notification was depending on the indoor location type and who can access the data. So we can also argue that which location they want to be notified, and who is accessing the data. So we can also minimize the frequency of the notification. And third one is we can make sensor management easier. So controlling rule guideline and interface design. So users generally ignore privacy policy documentation, and generally they don't interact with the control and often use the default configuration. However, we show that at certain cases, users willing to specify their control setting. So we identified that indoor location, especially group area, was the important factor our participants' willingness to set up the rules. So designers should prioritize control that allow user to set up the data collection rules based on indoor location, which would help to reduce the complexity of the rules that the user need to be specified. So here is our conclusion. So indoor location type and access by whom are primarily determined for comfort, notification frequency, and allowance decision of data collection in academic setting. Unlike prior work that reported that strong influence that sensing modality and purpose in the general public spaces. So here the differences is our focusing on the academic setting, and people's perception and expectation is different. And we also find that indoor location type influences privacy control cons- preferences, and we provide insight into how rules are specified. So we suggest that the space stakeholder consider indoor location type and when deploying sensors in smart campus, and the need to inform the user who has the access of the sense data. Thank you so much, and please let me know if you have any other questions.